Ethan Calloway stretched his arms and let out a deep sigh. Another long day at work was finally over. As an engineer on New Avalon, one of humanity's largest space stations, he spent most of his time fixing air purifiers, checking power systems, and making sure the colony didn't suddenly lose gravity. It was important work, sure, but it was also exhausting. Stepping into his small apartment, he glanced around and groaned. It was a mess. Tools scattered across the table, an empty food container left near the console, and dust gathering in the corners. Ethan was good at fixing machines, but keeping his place clean, not so much. He scratched his head and sighed. Guess it's time to call the cleaning service again. Ethan walked over to his console and pulled up the cleaning service app. He had been using Starshine Cleaning for over a year now, and they always did a great job. But there was one reason he stuck with them. Zirana. She was Silari, a feline-like alien species with sharp reflexes, keen senses, and an unmatched ability to clean every single speck of dust. Zirana was efficient, professional, and honestly, pretty fun to talk to. Most Silari weren't very social with humans. They had their own culture, their own ways. But Zirana was different. She asked questions about Earth, laughed at his bad jokes, and even started trying human drinks, though she still refused to accept that coffee wasn't a poisonous substance. Ethan smirked as he selected her name and confirmed the booking. The system replied instantly. Zirana has accepted your request. Arrival time: 30 minutes. Perfect. Ethan tidied up a little, not wanting to seem too messy before a professional cleaner arrived. He pushed some tools into a drawer, stacked his data pads neatly, and threw away the empty food container. He wasn't proud of it, but he always cleaned a little before the cleaner came. Why do I even do this? He wondered, shaking his head. Just as he sat down, the door chimed. She was early. "Come in," he called. The door slid open with a soft hiss, and Zirana stepped inside. She looked the same as always, tall and lean, her dark blue fur shining under the apartment lights. She wore her usual Starshine Cleaning uniform, a sleek, practical suit designed for easy movement. Her feline-like ears twitched slightly, and her golden eyes scanned the room like she was already planning her cleaning strategy. But something was different. Ethan couldn't tell what it was at first. Then he noticed the small signs. Her tail flicked sharply behind her, not the usual lazy swish he was used to. Her ears twitched more than usual, reacting to every tiny sound. And her breathing. It was a little faster. "Hey, Zirana," Ethan greeted, standing up. "You're early." She hesitated for a second before stepping inside fully. "Yes," she said, her voice less steady than usual. "I arrived sooner than expected. Should I leave and return later?" Ethan frowned. "Oh no. It's fine. You okay?" She blinked a few times, as if trying to process the question. Then she shook her head quickly. "Yes, I am. Fine." A pause. "Perhaps," she added, "not entirely fine." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "What's wrong?" Zirana exhaled slowly, pressing a hand against her forehead. "It is nothing serious. Just a natural phase of my species. It will pass." He crossed his arms. "That's not really an answer, you know." Zirana's tail flicked again. She was clearly uneasy, which was weird. He had never seen her like this before. Then, without warning, she turned and hissed at his coffee machine. Ethan froze. "What did my coffee machine do to you?" Zirana blinked, looking almost embarrassed. "It made a noise I did not expect." Ethan stared at her, then back at the machine, which had done absolutely nothing. Something was definitely wrong. He slowly sat back down. "Zirana, I feel like you're not telling me something important." She looked away. Her claws flexed slightly. Another nervous habit. After a long silence, she finally said, "Human, I may not be able to finish my work today." Ethan's stomach dropped a little. He had never heard her say that before. Zirana was the most reliable worker he had ever met. She once cleaned his apartment during a station-wide power outage with nothing but a portable light. If she was saying she couldn't work, something was seriously wrong. "Okay," Ethan said slowly. "Then sit down. Take a break. Whatever's going on, you don't have to push yourself." Zirana hesitated again. Then, after a long moment, she finally nodded and sat across from him. Her breathing had slowed slightly, but she still looked tense, uncertain. For the first time since he met her, Ethan saw something in her expression that didn't belong. Worry. And that's when he realized. This isn't just about work. Something bigger is happening. Ethan stared at the package in his hands. "Do not open near Xilari." That one sentence made his stomach twist. He glanced at Zirana. She looked tense, her sharp golden eyes locked on the container. Her ears were flattened, and her tail was stiff behind her. Whatever was inside, she could sense something wrong. Ethan swallowed. "Okay, this is officially weird." Zirana's voice was low and serious. "Put it down." Slowly, Ethan carefully set the package on the table. "You think it's dangerous?" Zirana nodded once. "Something is wrong. I can smell it. I do not know what it is, but my instincts are warning me." Ethan frowned. "Can your people smell danger?" "Not exactly." Her tail flicked sharply. "But during Valar cycle, our senses are heightened. I can smell something unnatural. Something that should not be here." Ethan exhaled. "Great. That's not terrifying at all." He stepped back, rubbing his temples. He had no idea who sent this or why it had a warning for Xilari. The fact that it was marked anonymous made it even worse. Ethan sighed. "Okay. Best case, this is a weird prank. Worst case, it's actually dangerous." Zirana didn't blink. "There is no best case. This is a threat." Ethan looked at her. She wasn't just guessing. She was certain. A small shiver ran down his spine. "So, what do we do?" he asked. Zirana narrowed her eyes. "We scan it first. Do you have a security scanner?" Ethan nodded and grabbed his handheld multi-scanner from a drawer. It was a useful tool for an engineer, checking for broken circuits, gas leaks, and even biological contaminants. He activated it and ran it over the package. The screen flashed red. "Warning. Unknown organic material, DTCTED." Ethan's heart jumped. "Organic," he repeated. "As in, alive." Zirana's claws flexed slightly. "Possibly." Ethan took 2 steps back. He had no interest in opening a box with something alive inside. He checked the scanner again. No radiation, no toxins. But the fact that it had organic material meant someone put it there on purpose. Ethan exhaled slowly. "Okay, next question. Do we open it?" Zirana hesitated. "We should call security." Ethan nodded. "Right. Good idea." He moved to his console and started opening a report. "Mysterious package, possible biohazard, needs immediate pickup." But before he could send it, the package moved. Both Ethan and Zirana froze. The sealed container shifted slightly on the table, as if something inside had just stirred. Ethan's stomach dropped. Did that just? TMP. Something hit the inside of the box. Ethan stumbled back. "Okay, nope. Absolutely not." Zirana was already moving. She grabbed his wrist and pulled him away from the table, her ears fully flattened now. "Do not go near it," she ordered. "Yeah, no problem," Ethan replied quickly. The package thumped again. Then, the lid started to open. Ethan and Zirana both reacted instantly. She pulled him behind the couch while he grabbed a shock baton from his tool rack. It wasn't a weapon, really, just something engineers use to jumpstart machinery. But right now, he wasn't taking chances. The lid cracked open. A strange silver mist drifted into the air. spreading like thin smoke. Zirana's nose wrinkled immediately. She hissed and pulled back, her claws digging into the couch. "Do not breathe it in," she warned. Ethan held his breath. "What is it?" Zirana's eyes were dilated now, her instincts in full control. I do not know, but it is meant for me, for my kind." Ethan's grip tightened on the baton. "Someone sent this for you." Her ears twitched violently. "No, they sent it to test me." Ethan's blood ran cold. Someone knew about her Valor cycle. Someone knew her instincts were heightened, and they had sent this to his apartment. Ethan's mind raced. Who? Why? And more importantly, what was in that mist? Zirana covered her nose, her tail lashing wildly. "I must leave. Now." Ethan shook his head. "No way. We don't know what this stuff does." She staggered slightly. Whatever was in the mist, it was affecting her. Ethan's stomach twisted. "Hey, stay with me," he said firmly. "You okay?" Zirana took a shaky breath. "I am trying. My body is reacting." Ethan clenched his fists. "We need to shut that thing before it spreads." Zirana hesitated, then nodded. Together, they moved. Ethan grabbed a nearby towel and threw it over the box, stopping more mist from escaping. At the same time, Zirana slammed the lid shut with her claws. The mist stopped leaking. The room fell silent. Ethan's heart pounded. Okay, we're good, I think." Zirana didn't answer right away. She was still breathing hard, gripping the table. Her pupils were sharp slits, her body tense. Ethan stepped closer. "Zirana." She slowly turned to him, and when she spoke, her voice was lower. "Something inside me just changed." Ethan felt a cold chill. Before he could reply, the console beeped. "Incoming transmission." A robotic voice spoke. "Mr. Calloway, you have been chosen to assist in an experiment. Do not resist. Do not interfere." Ethan's blood froze. What experiment? And more importantly, what had they done to Zirana? Zirana sat stiffly on the couch, her sharp golden eyes fixed on the table in front of her. She was never like this before. Usually, she was calm, focused, and efficient. But now she looked restless. Ethan leaned forward, studying her carefully. He wasn't an expert on cellular biology, but he could tell something was seriously wrong. "You sure you don't need a doctor?" he asked. "I mean, there's a med bay just 2 levels down." Zirana shook her head quickly. "No, a doctor cannot help with this." "Then what's wrong?" She hesitated. Her tail flicked sharply behind her, her ears twitching at even the faintest noise. It was almost like she was on edge. Finally, she exhaled and looked at Ethan. "You are familiar with my species biology, yes?" Ethan shrugged. "A little. I know you guys have sharp senses, strong reflexes, and can see in the dark." Zirana nodded. "That is correct. But we also have cycles." Ethan blinked. "Like seasons." "Not exactly." She flexed her claws absent-mindedly before folding her hands together. "Every few years, our bodies enter a phase called Valor cycle. It is a natural process, one that affects our instincts, our emotions, and our reactions." Ethan frowned. "Wait, so you're going through one right now?" She nodded once. That explained a lot. The twitching ears, the sharp reactions, even the way she hissed at his coffee machine. Her body was acting differently, reacting to things in ways she couldn't control. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. "Okay, so what does that mean? Is it dangerous?" Zirana paused. Then, with a slow breath, she said, "For most Silari, this cycle is difficult. Our instincts become stronger. We become more sensitive to sounds, smells, even emotions around us. Many of my kind choose to isolate themselves during this time." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "But you came here instead." Zirana looked away. Yes. Silence filled the room. Ethan was no scientist, but something didn't add up. If most Silari isolated themselves during this phase, why had Zirana come to work? Why had she come to him? He decided to ask the obvious question. Did you come here on purpose? Her golden eyes flicked toward him. For a moment, she said nothing. Then, in a quieter voice, she admitted, yes. Ethan's chest tightened. Why? Zirana's tail stopped flicking. She looked at him for a long time, as if deciding whether to speak. Then, at last, she said, because I wanted to see if a human would reject me. Ethan blinked. What? Zirana sighed, her claws tightening into fists. Among my people, the Valar cycle is seen as a weakness. We are trained to control our instincts, to suppress them. If we fail, we are expected to stay away from others until it passes. It is considered improper to show signs of it in public. Ethan frowned. That sounds kinda harsh. She looked at him again, studying his face. Your kind does not do this. Ethan scratched his head. I mean, we have emotions too, you know. We get stressed, angry, scared. But we don't just push people away because of it. If someone's struggling, we help them. Zirana's ears twitched, even if it is inconvenient. Yeah. Ethan leaned back. That's kinda what friendship is. For the first time since arriving, Zirana's expression softened, just a little. You humans are strange, she muttered. Ethan grinned. You say that like it's a bad thing. She let out a small, amused huff. Not bad. Just different. Another silence passed, but this one wasn't tense. It was comfortable. Then, suddenly, Zirana tensed again. Her ears flicked up, her eyes narrowing toward the hallway. Ethan followed her gaze. What? Someone is approaching, she murmured. Ethan listened. He didn't hear anything. But if Zirana's senses were sharper than usual, then she might be picking up sounds he couldn't. Sure enough, a moment later, his apartment's door chime rang. Ethan frowned and stood up. I didn't order anything else. Zirana also stood, her muscles tight with tension. Ethan walked to the door and checked the screen. A delivery bot. Huh, he muttered. Looks like someone sent me a package. He pressed the button, and the door slid open. A small hover drone floated inside, carrying the sealed container. Delivery for Ethan Calloway, the robotic voice said. Ethan grabbed the package, still confused. He hadn't ordered anything. Thanks, he said, but the drone had already left. Zirana stepped closer, her nose twitching. What is inside? Ethan turned the container in his hands. No idea. He found the label and read it out loud. Sent by Anonymous. Instructions. Do not open near Xilari. Ethan froze. Zirana's pupils dilated. For a second, neither of them spoke. Then, slowly, Ethan looked at her. So, should I be worried? Zirana's ears flattened, and her tail bristled. Yes, she said. Very. Ethan stared at the console screen, his heart pounding. You have been chosen to assist in an experiment. Do not resist. Do not interfere. Whoever sent this message knew he was here. They were watching. He turned to Zirana. She was not okay. Her claws were gripping the table tightly, her breathing uneven. Her golden eyes were dilated, her ears twitching as if she was hearing something he couldn't. Zirana, Ethan asked carefully. She didn't answer immediately. When she finally looked at him, her expression was strange. I feel different, she whispered. Ethan clenched his fists. That mist, what did it do to you? She closed her eyes for a second, then inhaled sharply. My instincts, they are stronger now. My body is reacting faster. My senses are sharper. It is like. She stopped, shaking her head. It is unnatural. Ethan's stomach twisted. Someone had planned this. Someone wanted to test how Zirana would react. and he had a feeling that was only the beginning. The console beeped again. A second message appeared. Subject's response. Active. Stage 1 complete. Stage 2 will commence shortly. Ethan's eyes widened. Stage 2. Zir-Anna growled, her claws digging into the table. They are treating me like some kind of experiment. Ethan exhaled sharply. Not just you. They said I was chosen to. Zir-Anna's tail flicked. Then we must stop this before it goes further. Ethan nodded. Agreed. But how do we fight something when we don't even know who's behind it? The room fell silent. Then, the lights flickered. Zir-Anna's ears twitched. Something is happening. Ethan turned back to his console. The network was shutting down. His access to external communications was blocked. Then, suddenly, the apartment door locked itself. Security override activated. Please remain inside. Ethan's stomach dropped. Oh, that is not good. Zir-Anna moved quickly, pressing her claws against the door panel. They are trapping us inside. Ethan gritted his teeth. Yeah, I got that. Whoever was running this experiment didn't want them leaving. They were isolating them on purpose. And then, the ceiling vents opened. A soft hissing sound filled the room. Ethan's eyes widened. Oh, come on. Zir-Anna's nose twitched. She jumped back immediately. Another gas. Ethan grabbed a cloth from the table and covered his nose. We need to stop it. Zir-Anna looked around, her sharp gaze searching for a solution. Then, her eyes locked onto the vent. Without hesitating, she leaped onto the couch, then onto the wall. With one powerful slash, she ripped the vent cover off. A thin cloud of pale blue mist poured out, but she didn't stop. She grabbed the loose wires inside the vent and yanked them out. Sparks flew. The hissing stopped. Ethan exhaled in relief. Okay, you are officially my favorite problem solver. Zir-Anna leaped down, shaking off the dust. I will accept that title when we are out of here. Ethan nodded. Fair point. But the relief didn't last long. Because the console beeped again. A third message appeared. Subjects resisting. Stage 2 adjustment required. Engaging direct intervention. Ethan felt a chill. That doesn't sound good. Zir-Anna's claws flexed. Prepare yourself. The apartment shook. Then, the ceiling panel slid open, and from the dark space above, something dropped down. Ethan's breath caught. It was a drone, sleek, metallic, and completely silent. It hovered just above the ground. Its smooth surface had no visible weapons, just a single glowing red eye at the center. Zir-Anna hissed lowly. It is scanning us. Ethan clenched his fists. And I'm guessing it's not just here to say hello. The drone's eye glowed brighter. Then, a voice echoed from it. Remain still. Further resistance is not recommended. Ethan gritted his teeth. Yeah. Well, I don't take orders from creepy floating machines. Zir-Anna stepped forward, her muscles tense. You will not control us. The drone didn't respond. Instead, it moved. Fast. Ethan barely had time to react before a thin, metallic tendril shot out toward him. He ducked, barely avoiding it. The tendril slammed into the wall, leaving a small burn mark. Okay, definitely not friendly. Ethan shouted. Zir-Anna lunged. With one swift motion, she slashed at the drone with her claws. But it dodged. Ethan grabbed his shock baton. Guess we're doing this the hard way. Zir-Anna moved like lightning, her body faster than before. Whether it was the mist or pure instinct, her reactions were sharper than ever. The drone struck again. This time, Zir-Anna dodged midair and landed behind it. Ethan didn't hesitate. While the drone was focused on Zir-Anna, he lunged forward and slammed his shock baton against its glowing red eye. Crack. The drone shook violently. Sparks flew. Then, it collapsed. Ethan stumbled back, breathing hard. Did we just win? Zirana stepped forward, inspecting the broken machine. Her tail flicked. For now. Then, the console beeped again. Ethan looked at it. His stomach sank. The message was short. Stage 2. Failed. Initiating Stage 3. Ethan felt his blood run cold. Why do I have a feeling we're not gonna like Stage 3? Zirana's ears flattened. Because we will not. And then, the entire apartment's gravity shifted. Ethan felt himself lift off the ground. Zirana hissed in alarm. And just as they began to float helplessly into the air, the lights turned blood red, and the door finally unlocked. Someone was coming. And this time, it wasn't a drone. Ethan gritted his teeth as his body floated off the ground. His hands reached out, trying to grab something. Anything, to stop himself. Not good, not good, he muttered. Zirana was also suspended in the air, her claws extended, but there was nothing to grip onto. Her tail lashed as she struggled to control her movement. The gravity, it has changed, she hissed. Ethan kicked his legs, trying to turn himself around. The apartment was now a zero-gravity zone, and that meant whoever was running this experiment had full control over their environment. Then, the apartment door slid open. Ethan's stomach dropped. 2 figures stepped inside. They were tall, wrapped in dark armored suits that covered their entire bodies. Their helmets had smooth, featureless visors that glowed with a faint blue light. Ethan had never seen anything like them before. Zirana growled lowly. They are not Silari, but they are not human either. Ethan swallowed. I don't care who they are. They're the ones behind this. The figures floated inside gracefully, completely unfazed by the zero gravity. One of them raised a hand. A mechanical voice spoke from the helmet. Stage 3. Direct interaction. The subjects will comply. Ethan glared. Yeah, that's not happening. Zirana bared her fangs. We do not submit to experiments. The figure tilted its head slightly, as if observing them. Then, it moved fast. Before Ethan could react, a metallic device shot out from its wrist. Zirana twisted in the air, avoiding it. But Ethan wasn't as fast. The device latched onto his arm. Ah! Ethan gasped as a sharp pulse ran through his muscles. It wasn't painful, but it made his entire arm lock up. Zirana's eyes flashed. With a sharp twist of her body, she launched herself toward the armored figure. Her claws slashed, but the second figure intercepted her. A glowing energy shield appeared in front of it, blocking her attack. Zirana rebounded, flipping midair. The first figure spoke again. The Silari's reaction speed has increased significantly. The human remains within expected parameters. Ethan gritted his teeth. Oh, you can shove your expected parameters up. Zirana suddenly spoke in a deadly tone. Let him go. The air shifted. Ethan had never heard Zirana sound like that before. It wasn't just anger. It was pure instinct, a predator's warning. The armored figures seemed to hesitate for a second. Then the second one raised a small glowing sphere. Continue observation. Prepare Phase 4. Ethan's eyes widened. Phase 4. Oh, come on. Before he could react, the sphere flashed. A pulse of blue light exploded through the room. Ethan's vision blurred. His body jerked. For a brief moment, he felt like he was being torn apart. Not painfully, but as if his body was somewhere else for a split second. Then, everything went black. A few moments later, Ethan's head was pounding. His limbs felt heavy. His thoughts were slow. Where was he? Slowly, his eyes blinked open. The first thing he noticed was he was no longer floating. Gravity was back. The second thing he noticed, he was no longer in his apartment. Ethan sat up quickly, his heart pounding. He was in a dimly lit metallic room. The walls were smooth, glowing faintly with soft blue energy lines. There was no furniture, no windows, just a large circular doorway on one side. Zirana was beside him, still unconscious. Ethan reached out, shaking her shoulder gently. "Hey, Zirana, wake up." She stirred, her ears twitching. Then her eyes snapped open. Immediately, she sat up, her claws flexed. "Where?" Ethan shook his head. "I don't know." Zirana looked around quickly, taking in their surroundings. Her tail lashed sharply. "This is a containment cell," she said. Ethan tensed. "How do you know?" Zirana narrowed her eyes. "Because my people build similar ones for dangerous creatures." Ethan exhaled slowly. "Fantastic." Before they could say anything else, the circular doorway hissed open. Ethan jumped to his feet. Zirana was already in a defensive stance, her body tense. A new figure stepped inside. Unlike the armored ones from before, this one wasn't covered head to toe. It was tall, thin, and humanoid. Its skin was pale blue, its face smooth with dark, expressionless eyes. It wore a long, flowing coat over a tight suit of some kind, and in one hand, it held a small tablet. It stopped in front of them, observing them silently. Then it finally spoke. "Subjects, awake. Good." Ethan crossed his arms. "You mind telling us what's going on?" The being studied him for a moment. Then it smiled. "Do not be alarmed, human. You have been chosen for a great purpose." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Yeah, and what purpose is that?" The being's smile widened slightly. "To prove a theory." Zirana's tail flicked sharply. "What theory?" The being took a slow step forward. That Ixilari in the Valar cycle and a human exposed to the same conditions might form a unique connection. Ethan's stomach twisted. Zirana's pupils shrank. The being's voice remained calm. "We are here to observe whether that connection will be beneficial." Ethan gritted his teeth. "Yeah, and what if we refuse?" The being's smile didn't fade. "That," it said, "is not an option." Ethan's fists clenched as he stared at the pale blue alien in front of him. The words kept echoing in his head. "You have been chosen for a great purpose. That is not an option." Zirana was rigid, her claws slightly extended, her ears twitching as if she was ready to strike at any moment. Ethan glanced at her, then back at the stranger. "Yeah. Well, forgive me if I don't like being someone's test subject." The alien didn't look offended. Instead, it tilted its head slightly, as if studying them like an experiment in a lab. "You misunderstand," it said, voice smooth and calm. "This is not a punishment. This is an opportunity." Zirana's tail lashed. "For whom? You or us?" The alien remained silent for a moment. Then it took a slow step forward, raising its hand. A holographic display flickered to life between them. Ethan's eyes widened. The screen showed two images side by side, one of himself and one of Zirana. Strange energy readings surrounded them, glowing in pulsating blue and gold waves. The patterns twisted and shifted, almost as if they were reacting to each other. Ethan's stomach tightened. "What is that?" The alien's voice remained neutral. "It is proof." Zirana's gaze darkened. "Proof of what?" The alien tapped the display. The glowing energy between the images pulsed in sync. "That humans and Silari, under certain conditions, can form a unique resonance." Ethan blinked. "A what now?" The alien continued. "The Valar cycle, the biological phase that your companion is experiencing, amplifies Silari instincts and capabilities. We believe that if a human was exposed to a similar state, through controlled conditions, something remarkable might occur." Ethan's mouth went dry. "And what exactly is supposed to happen?" The alien's dark eyes locked onto his, a perfect synchronization of two species. Zirana hissed lowly. "We are not experiments. Release us." The alien sighed softly, almost like a teacher disappointed in a student. "That is not possible. You are now at the most crucial stage." Ethan's skin prickled. "What does that mean?" The alien's expression remained unreadable. "It means your biological energies are already linked. If the process completes, you may achieve something no human and Scifi have before." Ethan's stomach twisted. "And if we don't?" The alien's voice remained calm. "Then the synchronization will collapse, and both of your bodies may suffer severe consequences." Ethan felt a cold weight settle in his chest. Zirana's claws tightened. "Lies," she spat. The alien remained unshaken. "We have studied this for years. Every test subject before you has failed because they were not compatible. But you too. You are different." Ethan swallowed. "And what exactly do you want us to do?" The alien's gaze darkened slightly. "You will go through the final stage. You will complete the process, and we will observe." Ethan's jaw tightened. "And if we refuse?" The alien simply pressed a button on its wrist. Immediately, Ethan felt it. A sudden rush of heat surged through his body, like a deep vibration running through his bones. His heartbeat pounded in his ears. Next to him, Zirana staggered, gripping her head. Her breathing sharpened. Ethan gasped, trying to steady himself. What are you doing?" The alien watched calmly. "Your bodies are reaching the critical threshold. You can either resist it and let the energy overload you." The vibrations in Ethan's chest grew stronger, almost painful. "Or you can accept it and evolve." Zirana gritted her teeth. "You will not control us." The alien took a slow step forward. "We do not control. We guide. The choice is still yours." Ethan exhaled shakily, trying to focus. He looked at Zirana. She was struggling, but her golden eyes burned with defiance. She wasn't giving in. Neither was he. Ethan turned back to the alien. His body still buzzed with strange energy, but he forced himself to speak. "If we do this, if we complete whatever this is, what happens after?" The alien didn't hesitate. "Then you will be more than human, more than Scifi. You will be something new." Ethan's chest tightened. He had been through some weird things in his life, but this was something else entirely. He turned to Zirana. She was breathing hard, but her gaze met his. She wasn't afraid. Neither was he. Ethan exhaled, shaking his head. "If we agree to this, we do it on our own terms." The alien's eyes flickered. "Interesting." Zirana stepped forward, standing beside Ethan. "We decide how this ends, not you." The alien studied them for a moment, then gave a small, knowing smile. "Very well. Let us see how far you can go." Suddenly, the walls flashed with bright golden light. The energy inside Ethan exploded. Zirana let out a sharp breath, her body tense, as if something inside her had been unlocked. Ethan's vision blurred. His muscles felt stronger, his senses sharper. Something was happening, and he had no idea what came next. Ethan's breath came in short gasps as the energy surged through his body. His muscles tensed, his skin tingling as if he had been struck by lightning. His vision blurred, but instead of darkness, he saw glowing lines of light running across the walls, the floor, even his own hands. Next to him, Zirana's golden eyes burned brighter than ever before. Her fur bristled, and her tail lashed like a whip. The markings on her arms and legs, usually faint, were now glowing with a golden hue. Ethan barely had time to think before a pulse of energy erupted from his chest. Boom! A powerful shockwave blasted outward, making the alien scientist stumble backward. The floating screen shattered into 1,000 flickering pieces. The alien's dark eyes widened. Fascinating. Ethan staggered, trying to stay on his feet. His heartbeat pounded in his ears, but something felt different, stronger, faster, sharpened. He turned to Zirana. You okay? She was breathing heavily, but she nodded. I feel alive. More than ever. Ethan clenched his fists. His strength had doubled, tripled. He could feel it in every muscle. His senses were heightened. The air smelled crisper, sharper. He could hear Zurana's heartbeat, steady and strong, matching his own. Whatever had happened to them, it wasn't normal. The alien scientist tilted its head, observing them with intense curiosity. This exceeds expectations, it murmured. Ethan shot him a glare. Yeah. Well, your little experiment is over. He moved, faster than he ever had before. In a single motion, he closed the distance between him and the scientist. The alien barely had time to react before Ethan grabbed the front of its coat and slammed it against the wall. The scientist didn't struggle. If anything, it looked impressed. The synchronization is complete, it said. You are no longer simply human. No longer simply Scifi. You are something new. Zurana stepped forward, her sharp claws glinting. Then you should be afraid. The scientist didn't move. I am not programmed for fear. Ethan frowned. Programmed. The scientist gave the smallest of smiles. I am merely an observer. The real ones in charge are watching. Ethan's stomach twisted. He turned his head slightly. And suddenly, he could feel it. They were being watched. Somewhere, beyond the glowing walls, beyond the containment room, there were others. More of these aliens. And they had been studying him and Zurana this entire time. Ethan gritted his teeth, then let them wash. Zurana took a step forward. We are leaving. The scientist nodded slowly. If that is your decision, then you must prove it. A low rumble vibrated through the walls. The ceiling shifted. Suddenly, a section of the room slid open, revealing a massive corridor beyond. The scientist gestured toward it. Your test is not yet over. Survive the final challenge, and you are free. Ethan exhaled sharply. Why do I feel like this is about to get worse? Zurana bared her fangs. Let them try. Without another word, she stepped forward. Ethan followed, his new senses alert, his body ready. They were getting out of here. No matter what stood in their way. The escape begins. The corridor was massive, stretching into the distance with tall, glowing walls. Strange symbols flickered on the surfaces, shifting like living energy. The air smelled clean but artificial. Then, a loud hiss echoed from ahead. Zurana's ears twitched. Something is coming. Ethan tensed, his hands curling into fists. His entire body felt supercharged, but he had no idea what they were up against. Then, from the shadows, they appeared. Tall, armored figures, similar to the ones that had captured them. Their visors glowed red now, their movements sharp and calculated. Security units, Zurana muttered. Ethan cracked his knuckles. Figures. The first unit charge. Ethan moved, faster than ever. Before the unit could react, Ethan sidestepped, grabbed its wrist, and twisted. The armor was strong, but his strength was stronger. With a grunt, he lifted the unit and slammed it into the ground. The floor shook. Zurana leaped over him, claws flashing. She landed on the second unit, swiping across its chest. Sparks erupted as the armor cracked. More guards approached, but Ethan and Zurana were faster. Stronger. They moved like one. Ethan punched. Zurana slashed. One guard after another fell. Their energy synchronization wasn't just real. It was unstoppable. Finally, the last security unit collapsed. Ethan exhaled. Okay, that was fun. Zurana flicked her claws. We need to move. Ahead, a large doorway slid open. Beyond it, the outside.